The appellant has made it easy for us because he got a capable gentleman to prepare his case for him. He's with us tonight, so he's been with us before quite often. He knows how I operate and how the good parts and the bad parts. And we have a good secretary. That took care of the mailings this time. Very good. She notified the accounts. For the call to the meeting. Okay, we're ready to open at 8 minutes after 7, 19:08 postal time. Case number 16-06. The Rollinsford Board of Appeals will be in session on Tuesday, November 22nd at 7 p.m. in the Rollinsford Town Hall to hear the following appeal. Rollinsford Realty Trust of 18 Jesse Doe Road, Rollinsford, New Hampshire, is seeking a variance to remove an existing 12-foot by 20-foot wood frame shed located 4 feet off the lot line adjacent to the B&M Railroad. And the
Jody.
basic report
Sorry, Jody, we got in.
14 by 24
Bye.
foot wood frame garage located 8 feet off the lot line. So we killed that mouse, huh? Is that good?
Someone's having a party over there.
Oh,
That was Jody, and I let her know we got in.
signed by myself as chairman of the Board of Appeals.
Sorry.
This notification has been sent to the following abutters. The secretary will read who they are and the notifications.
In the town of Rollinsford, Rollinsford Realty Trust, Dennis and Galen St. Hilaire, Bruce Mortgage, Bat Streets Realty, Boston and Maine Corporation, Civil Works New England. That's it.
And they've all been notified?
Yes.
All been delivered?
Indeed.
Okay. The members here in the case tonight, we need 3 members to hear the case, to make a decision on the case. Mr. Foss, are you going to be recusing yourself?
I am going to be recusing myself because of the connection between Rollinsford Realty Trust and my employer.
Yeah, it's his employer, so he'll be recusing himself from voting in tonight's session. The other member here, the members here in the case will be Ron Shabbat, Howard Hammond, and myself, Joe Carway. And that's from 3 to 5 members. We've had 6 members here, but we've had to keep some out, because you can't have no more than 5, no less than 3. I was kind of in the pinch today. I'm glad that Howard showed up, because I didn't get to talk to him today. The case over here is, we all know who it is, it's C&J, under their fancy name, Rollinsford Realty Trust. And I think you're all familiar with the property and what's being asked. You've all been notified, you've got the copies in front of you. The application is for a variance to section 7. Let me just tell you what we're going to be looking for. We're going to be looking for variance. We're looking for the granting the variance must not be contrary to the public interest. The proposed use is not contrary to the spirit of the ordinance. Granting the variance would do substantial justice. The proposed use would not diminish surrounding property values. Denial of the variance will result in unnecessary hardship to the owner. For purposes of the subparagraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. That's what we're looking for. I have received no communications from any of the abutters and no communications from any of the community members The secretary hear anything from B&M?
No,
They don't usually respond to anything, even the solar panels are right on their tracks practically, they didn't respond to that. They just have taken no interest. And I assume that would be happening. So, and the appellant has answered all of these, but I'm going to ask, in the names that, well, yeah, you are taping it, aren't you? And Mr. Paul Conley, we're all Mr. tonight. Mr. Paul Conley is the architect working with the appellant, and he has addressed this issue. I'm going to let you address them.
Thank you, Joe, Mr. Collette, Mr. Chair. As Joe says, I am Paul Conley. I'm here on behalf of Rollinsford Realty Trust, the owner of the subject premises. Just right along the plan, if I can show this. This is not going to be on the camera, if that's okay.
Fine.
Anyway, C&J Transportation does occupy and lease all of the land owned by Rollinsford Realty Trust, and the bulk of their facilities now include what they call building number 1, building number 2, building number 3 in the old Sanficon house, which before that was the Walter Stewart house, I think. My memory serves me correctly.
Okay, used to be the ice skating rink there.
Yeah.
Frog Pond.
The variance, the matter in question revolves around the existing shed next to the existing house. And I've blown that part of the plan up a little bit to about 10 scale here, just so hopefully you can see it a little bit better. At present, there is a 12-foot wide by 20-foot long utility shed there. And to make the property a little bit better utilized, it would be very helpful to grow the size of that utility shed from 12-foot wide to 14-foot wide, and grow the length of it from 20 feet long to 24 feet long, and just simply turn it 90 degrees on its axis. That way, it can accept the vehicle in there, as well as provide for storage of just garden implements, lawn implements, mowers, snow blowers, so on and so forth. In our proposal, and in so doing, we will actually lessen the degree of the nonconformity that exists on this lot right now. This land is all in zone industrial, and the setback here is required is 25 feet, which is represented by this line right here. As you can see, even the existing house, because it predates zoning, impinges into that setback area. The existing shed is 4 feet off the property line, which is also the Boston Main Railroad right-of-way line right there. And again, by taking it down and putting up a slightly larger garage, we can turn it 90 degrees, utilize it for storage of a vehicle, and get it 8 feet off the property line instead of 4 as it is now. So something that really is beneficial in all ways towards better meeting the spirit and intent and requirements of the zoning ordinance. Let me just set this down.
Now the house that we're talking about, before we had the entry by the tracks over here to go to the dump, we used to have an entry right by where that house is. And we blocked that off, 6, 7 years or so ago, I guess.
Actually, time flies, it's been about 20 years.
20 years, well.
But
When Ed Jansen started doing his recycling plant,
the entryway over the tracks used to be right here,
Okay,
and it continued down, what is now a paved roadway surface,
Right.
all the way to the transfer station and the town barn, if you will.
Right.
Yeah, so Walter Stewart's house was right there, and it's been used residential over the past, I don't know how many years that Rollinsford Realty Trust has owned it, 10 anyway, probably closer to 13. And the property has been I would say, improved to a good degree, re-sided, refinished on the inside, and so on and so forth, the house anyway. And the shed, although it's been spruced up over the years, could still be much better utilized by turning it 90 degrees and slightly enlarging it to a garage size. I should point out also that there really isn't any other, what you might call a sensible location to put the garage. You could try to tuck it around the back of the house, but it would be awful awkward to get into it and really not maintaining the yard that is out there right now. And you could also try to put it in front of the house here, because the front of the house really points in this direction. But then by doing so, you're sticking your garage out in front of the house, and that doesn't really look all that good either. So again, we're lessening the existing non-conforming dimension by about 100%. In other words, we're increasing it from 4 feet to 8 feet. To speak to the requirements that are necessary to be met in order for a variance to be granted, there will not be any diminution of any surrounding property values. The only property that is anywhere nearby here is the Boston Main Railroad right-of-way, and I don't think that shed or garage affects that property in any way. I don't think the granting of the variance would be contrary to the public interest in any regard, or it wouldn't be contrary with the spirit of the ordinance. As stated in section 1 of the ordinance, this Rollinsford zoning ordinance and its regulations are designed, among other things, to promote and conserve the health, safety, convenience, and welfare of the inhabitants, to encourage appropriate interrelationships of land uses and groups of land uses in the various parts of the town, to secure safety from fire, panic, epidemics, and other dangers, including flooding, to provide adequate access to light and air, to avoid undue concentration of population, to lessen congestion in the streets and prevent overcrowding of land. Again, I think in any regard, by setting this back further from the property line, we are further supporting the purposes and intents of the zoning ordinance. I guess in closing, in so doing, let me just back up strike that for a second, let me just back up one moment here, and also state that the literal enforcement of the zoning setbacks would, again, not really provide for any reasonable location of the proposed garage on this lot. It is a large lot, it's actually like 3 acres in size, but the 2 acres to the north side of the lot, running down Jesseville Road and the Boston Main Railroad right-of-way, are all jurisdictional wetland area. So that's why the development of the lot is crowded into the southern end. You can see some of the wetlands are delineated right here with the 25 and the 50-foot buffer. So it does pinch the development all down into here. And yes, we do have a large, it's actually a 10-bus storage, heated storage barn right there. But again, the house has been there, and the intent for the future is to most likely convert it from its existing residential occupation to more of an administrative and office function at the property in support of the C&J enterprise.
Well, initially, when Rollinsford Trust was, Rollinsford Realty Trust was building that wetlands area did come up. We had a problem with that, you know.
Yeah, yep.
And your building number 1, really, you utilized all the good space that you had. The one across from Bruce, yeah, right there.
Right here.
And so there's nothing we could do, because we had the same issue that we had with Winthrop Douglas with their wetlands issue with their parking lot, if you recall. And they had the same problem over here. But they worked it out pretty well, because you're on highland, actually, most of it right now.
Yeah, and we were able to respect the setbacks, and between this isolated wetland here and the larger wetland to the north is the area, if you've been to the property, which contains a detention and runoff treatment area. And although that looks like it's dry most of the time, it does serve to slow down and capture stormwater runoff during heavier periods of rain.
Does anybody live in that house right now?
Right now,
Yeah.
I don't think so, but last time I was there, well, it was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, I thought someone was there, but I was under the impression that their occupation was gonna be short-lived. I think they had been there for a couple of years, but, right now, I can't say that they're still there.
Okay.
It really has been maintained like a homestead for a long time, long time. I recall, some guy used to live off the tracks, moved in there at one time, maybe about 20 years ago. I can't think of the name right now.
Yeah.
Last time he came before the planning board, someone who he was related to, who Mr. Jalbert was related to, was living in the house.
Yes, that was quite some time ago. That was his stepson, Cam. And Cam has since been away at college for 3 or 4 years anyway, and then...
It can't have been that long, because I've only done planning board for like less than 2 years. But anyway, there was somebody related to
Yeah.
him, so it was.
It was never well maintained, let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I think it's been maintained the best as it ever has.
Recently,
Most
yeah.
recent past.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. Any further questions? Howard, Ron?
Just a point of order, Mr. Chair, I think with the board member count that we have this evening, 3 out of 5, an affirmative variance support would require all 3 members voting in the yea.
You're correct.
And we recognize the short board and the conditions of that, and
You recognize.
I guess we can say we stipulate that we were willing to go forward, being here
Any
tonight.
comments from the public? So I will not proceed to read the requirements that were provided to me by the appellant, because his architect has already announced the requirements for a variance to be granted. And I guess we're probably ready to call the roll. To allow Rollinsford Realty Trust, located 18 Jesse Dole Road, Rollinsford, New Hampshire, to be granted a variance on lot 12, tax map 10, 3.03 acres. To relocate a 12 by 20-foot wood frame shed on a lot line adjacent to the B&M Railroad, and replace it with a 14 by 24-foot wood frame garage that is 8 feet off the lot line. So a yes vote will grant the variance, a no vote will deny it. Mr. Shabbat, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Hammond?
Yes.
Mr. Hammond votes yes. Mr. Cartwright votes yes. The request is granted by a 3-vote margin, 3 votes for, no votes against. This concludes case number 6006. Well done.
I hope this has been the shortest zoning board of adjustment meeting ever held.
Still enough.
Close?
Very close.
Thank you very much.
No, we were not too concerned, otherwise I was toying with the idea of having Sunny probably go up and participate, because it says if you have a pecuniary relationship. I suppose if it's the guy you work for, it is pecuniary. Yeah.